Hey everybody, my name's Kayla and I'm an addict. There isn't much that I could get up here and share about Mason that half of y'all don't already know. It's blatantly obvious that he's on fire for recovery, but I can do it on a more intimate level, based around me, because it's all about me. When I first got here, when, when I first got here, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be all the way in the boat, but the way that Mason was on fire and was on fire for the newcomer, it made it appealing to me. So what I can say is through him, I became willing to want to do this program. And because of his program, he walked beside me through some of the darkest times of my recovery, and he held my hand until I could, have my head above water. And today we have a beautiful relationship, and it's nothing that we did. It's because we were willing to not use dope and work a program separate from each other. I'm super grateful for him. I'm grateful for his program. I'm grateful for, the way that he has been able to guide me and give me an understanding of Narcotics Anonymous on a dumber level, because sometimes I need that extra, to understand stuff. And he has that way about him that, he can give an understanding of basically anything. He's super involved. He works steps. He's on fire for all of the ones that are still, still in the fire, in the depths of hell. And I get to watch him put his hand down there and say, "Let me help you out." And because of that, so many men and so many newcomers are standing here still alive. And, it's really all I got. So come on, honey.
I'm Mason. I'm an addict. When she said I was on fire for the newcomer, she didn't tell y'all it was because she was the newcomer, right? We got to get honest, right? Hey, the first thing I want to do, because somebody was late, does anybody got 30 days clean today?
I'm sorry.
You're fine. All right. Yeah, it's awesome. Committee, great job. Awesome. I've been working on convention committees for quite some time, and none of this shit happens without, there are no NA ferries. And the work didn't just start Thursday. Like you said, like they said, they'll be. I'm sure they'll be selling registrations for the next one out there, and that's officially the work begins on, the next one from here until it starts and until it's over. So it's just an ever revolving door. So it's a huge commitment, and extremely grateful for you all and everybody who helps serve, because it's not just the committee that helps out, right? It takes all of us to do things like this, and what a gift it is when we all work together, even when shit doesn't go like it's supposed to go. We still have a big time. Now, my favorite part about conventions, I like workshops and I like speakers, but man, I love sitting out there in the lobby and talking and going off to eat and getting to know people and making connections. It's interesting. When I was getting high, nobody wanted to hear shit that I had to say. And I was driven so far into isolation, nobody wanted to be around me, and I don't blame them. I didn't want to be around nobody. I got into a place where I didn't want to be around nobody, not because I hated connection, just because I was afraid of what I was going to do to you. There's no telling what I was capable of. One of the things I want to say, though, is I really, really I love this program. I love Narcotics Anonymous. I love all the people that's in it. I love how we're so rough around the edges. That was the attractive part to me when I got in here. The first night I got clean, the very first act I did was I got baptized. And well, it was either that or go to treatment. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to go to treatment. But you know, the people, I got clean because I reached out to my sister who was in recovery at the time, and I'll get into all that. But she wanted to see some act of commitment from me. I was like, shit, well, baptism's easy. I'll just go into the water and I'll come out and I'll be fixed. And and I really believed that. Like, I thought that was going to happen. And so I didn't really hit rock bottom. I always tell people when I came out of that water and like 6 hours later, all I could think about was getting high again. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So I was like, damn, you are fucked up. You're so broke that God can't even fix you, you know. But anyway, so I had to follow that up with some action too. So they took me, that was early Sunday morning, like 2 a.m. That happened. And so I ended up going to church the next day or whatever. But when I walked in there, like I did not feel like I could tell the guy beside me, dude, I want to go shoot some dope. You know, I want to go, you know, destroy what's left of my life. You know, like I don't feel like he would have thought much about that. So, anyways, long story short, that route didn't end up working for me. But I got tricked into going to my first NA meeting, and when I walked in there, it was actually the second meeting when I started listening. I was pissed at the first one. But when I walked into the NA meeting, I actually started to listen. I was like, these motherfuckers are just like me. This is it. You know, very attractive. The honesty and the fact that you still cussed and had tattoos and was smoking cigarettes and, you know, degenerate gamblers and all kind of shit. I was like, hell yeah. I can get down with this. But anyways, I want to kind of, my story, I wouldn't be here today had the message not been carried to me. And I think it's pretty cool the way that I got the message. Because before that night, I got the message long before then. I'm from Homewall, Tennessee. Most people know it is Hohenwald. It's not hole in the wall, but at the same time, it is a hole in the wall. And if you look on the map, it looks like a hole in Tennessee's wall. You know, it's just. So in Hohenwald, we've had Narcotics Anonymous there since 2007. Also in 2007, my dad got clean. So in 2007, he was in a program at a place where I work now, which is interesting, but he's in a 4-month Matrix program. If any of y'all in Tennessee may remember the Matrix program, that was the big meth program they had back in the day. But so he went away for 4 months. He come back, and there was a guy in our town who was trying to start a meeting. He actually got a place, put it in the newspaper, and he sat outside on the steps like every 3 times a week, every week for 4 or 5 months, and nobody ever showed up. And so 3 days later, or not 3 days later, a few months later, 3 guys get out of that program from Hohenwald. They come back, and those 4 people really start NA, and one of those was my dad in Hohenwald. And so I got to see, you know, my dad go from a hopeless state, because I was one of those that I was convinced that he wasn't ever going to make it out. You know, and some crazy circumstances happened while he was in treatment. He only went to treatment to get out of trouble. He got busted. And while he was there, his mother died, and his brother also passed away while he was in that 4-month program. His brother was like a second daddy to me, you know, so it was a hard time for us. But something happened after his mom passed away, and he, my grandmother, he, he just made a decision. He surrendered is what happened. And he come back and gets clean and, man, like helps a ton of people. And, as his life is trending up, mine is trending down. My addiction's getting worse and worse and worse. But anyways, as it progressed, like I don't want to spend a lot of time telling you. My story's not something that's so unique that needs to be talked about. It's just like your story, Like it started out, it was fun. It got to a point where it wasn't fun. Then the consequences got more severe, and life brought me to my knees and kicked my ass and got me to a point to where I needed help, and I reached out for help. But so that's that story. But how I got to that night at my sister's house is pretty cool. So 9 months before then, actually, let's go back 18 months before then, I was sitting in jail. Just got arrested. I had like a $1,100 bond. And I remember being on the phone with my dad, calling him every kind of piece of shit in the world because they went and get $110 together and come get me out of jail. And I remember him telling me, he said, "You the only one think you got problems, don't you?" I said, "Well, I'm in here locked up like an animal. What problem could you possibly have?" He said, "Well, if you must know, went to the VA today, and they was doing some x-rays, and they found a little mass on my lung, and I got to go have a biopsy done." And dude, I felt about this big. And he wasn't even going to tell me, but I was on his ass like, "You sorry ass motherfucker's not going," you know how we get when we want out. I just couldn't believe they couldn't come. I mean, they could come up with $110, but they knew what was best for me. I've been on the other side of those conversations now. Leave that motherfucker in there. Let him dry out. Yeah, it's funny to me. It wasn't. I know it ain't to them, man. But anyways, so he'd been in recovery for about 10 years at that point, and man, a drastic change in his life. He'd helped a ton of people. I mean, he was still rough around the edges like all of us. But something happened that last year of his life. Like, you know how we surrender in the beginning, and then the surrender gets a little bit deeper each year that we go, and then sometimes like we slack off and we let a lot of chaos back in, and then we have to re-surrender. And so for him, when he got this diagnosis, man, he took it to a whole nother level. And he made a decision early on that he was going to not focus on the dying and just focus on the living. And so my dad was always like a big womanizer, and he talked like a sailor and smoked cigarettes and did all that shit. But he got this diagnosis. He quit all that shit. Like, he took it to, like, never thought I'd get to a day where my dad didn't say curse words or, didn't flirt with women or anything like that. He just took it to an extreme level. And it was crazy. And so I get to watch that walk throughout his last year. And then, after the phone call, I eventually get out of jail, and it's pain. The pain was so awful watching him deteriorate that I would I would convince myself that I was staying with him, but I would only go out there after he went to bed, and I'd stay with him all night. And as soon as he got up, like, I'd have to hit the road, because I couldn't deal with it. Like, that was, my hero and my rock, our relationship was so rocky because I couldn't get my shit together, and that bothered me. And I'm watching him deteriorate. I'm deteriorating at the same damn time. But eventually, one day I remember I'd got a hotel room one night, and got into some kind of altercation up there, and the guy who run the hotel was like, I need you to pay or get all your shit out. And so I run over to my dad's real quick, who's about a mile away, to see if he let me borrow $40 or so. When I got there, there was a bunch of cars out in the driveway, but the doors were locked, and I was like, something ain't right. So I called my sister, and they're like, I was like, what's everybody doing? It's like, oh, we're up here at the hospital. Dad had some complications from she was taking radiation at the time. Had some complications from his treatment, and he's got spitting up a little bit of blood. And they didn't think it was a big deal, but something in my heart was like, this is not good. And so I went up to the hospital, and by the time I had gotten to the hospital, that what they found out is that they had pretty much just burned up his liver when they were doing the radiation, which I mean, he was covered anyway at this time. But it was apparent that this was the end. So I sit up there, and I was coming down, but kept watching all these damn people show up at the hospital. I'm like, fuck are these people? Like, coming in and talking to they come up, they're like, man, I got to get in there and see your dad. And they go in and they talk to him, and they're crying, and they're talking about how thankful they are for him. I'm like, I've been around him my whole life. Who the fuck are these people? And they just keep coming, and they keep coming, and they keep coming, and they keep coming. And we got strangers like going around taking our orders and going out and getting us food and running back. Like, we're 45 minutes from the hospital. They're going back to our house and getting changes of clothes. I'm like, fuck are these people? And eventually I asked my sister, who are these people? She's like, oh, it's all the people from NA, It's all the people that, it's like a bunch of them. It's the people that he's helped get clean throughout the years. And dude, I don't know what it was, but like, I kept watching the love shared in there, man, and it just kept hitting me right in the heart. Like, even as much denial as I was in, and how unhuman I felt. Like, when the basic text talks about our living skills were reduced to the animal level, like that's what I felt. But something about the love in that room could not be denied, and I could not pretend that it wasn't real, and it affected me deeply. And I always tell this story, like, I don't know what it was that was inside of him that made this program so attractive, but I knew before he died, I was like, I don't know what the fuck he's got, but I want it. And I truly believe that when he passed away a little later, that whatever was on fire in him, a little bit of that spark went into me. And now, I didn't get clean right after that. I had no way to deal with that death. Like, I had no coping skills. So I used harder than I'd ever used after that. I spoke at the funeral. I remember one of the last things he said is, he always told my sisters that he believed that I was going to get my shit together. He's like, he's coming out of it. I guarantee it. They didn't believe it, but he was convinced. And I remember speaking at his funeral, and like, I wrapped up my speech by, one day, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to make you proud. And I used for 9 months after that, and like, went at the end of the road, right? Like, I knew, because of what he had done, I knew exactly where I needed to go. I tried to avoid it because I thought I was going to have to, looking back on it now, like, I think subconsciously I was avoiding it because I knew when I walked into those rooms, I was going to be flooded with the emotions of, that room. The only connection I had to that room right then was him, and I was trying to avoid grieving. But eventually, I got in there, and, my dad, when I was growing up, everybody in my household was using. It was chaotic. Like, my brothers and sisters lived with us from time to time. They all used. Some of their damn kids used. I mean, it was just it's just what we did. That's the way that I thought my whole life was going to be. You know, I was convinced that, or I didn't even know there was another option. So what's cool is my dad gets clean, then my sister gets clean, then another one of my sisters get clean, then my brother gets clean, then I get clean, then some of their kids start getting clean, and some of my cousins start getting clean. And it all started with one, you know. I tell people that I work with all the time, you never know. Like the best thing, you know what was interesting about my dad? Like he was so plugged in. But every time I come around, he never said, you need to get your ass to NA. You need to get a damn sponsor. You need to work the steps. You know how he carried his message? I heard JW say this before. He said, carry's a verb, right? He toted the message. He didn't use his mouth. He used his actions. Like he lived the message. He didn't have to get up on the side of a stump to me because that wouldn't have worked. Had he got up and tried to he knew that too. Like if he tried to shove NA down my throat, I wouldn't have responded. So he just lived it and he walked it out. And I got to see it from the beginning to the end, you know, and it was a beautiful thing. But anyways, that's kind of how I got to NA. That's how I found NA. It didn't take long until I was completely on fire. When I first got to NA, we had 3 meetings a week. We had 4 NA meetings a week. We had 3 AA meetings a week. So there was a meeting in Homewood every day of the week, but some of them was NA, some of them was AA. I also had to go back to work. I went back to work doing what I'd always done. I was I was painting gas stations and working in construction a little bit with my uncle. But sometimes we get home after 7 o'clock when the meetings start. But I committed to doing this 90-90 thing because that's what y'all told me I had to do. And I didn't, at that time, I know Zoom meetings were around, but it wasn't a thing like it is now. Like it wasn't a whole database. Like you had to be in the know to find an online meeting, and I wasn't in the know. So what happened is I shared about it in a meeting. I really want to do this 90-90 thing, but I got this problem. Like some nights I don't have the ability to be here by 7. So a couple of people was like, shit, just call us when you get home. We'll bring our basic text and we'll have a meeting. It only takes 2 of us. So the people in my home group, man, they'd grab their books and they made sure that I could get my 90 and 90. All I had to do is call and they'd never miss. They showed up. And they turned into be some really awesome meetings, At that time I was so new, I was like, it doesn't feel official unless we do the reading. So it's like, fuck, okay. We did the readings out of the basic text and had a meeting, and they were great. And so I did 90 meetings in 90 days, and I got a sponsor, and sponsor was real big in like getting involved in service. I remember I was such a stickler, man, for I don't know if stickler is the word, but like I wanted to get involved. And I went to this phone line workshop, had 90 days clean. And they're doing the training, and then we did this mock phone call, and they picked on me to do the phone call. Like I'm the one answering the phone. And like I killed it. I did great. Like they was all clapping and shit. I was like, hell yeah, I can't wait to get on the phone line. They was like, how long you got clean? I was like, 90 days. It was like, well, come back next year and you can get on the phone line. I was like, you motherfuckers. Like I was genuinely resentful about that. I was pissed. Like I'm like, all you ever talk about is get involved, and now I'm ready to get involved, and you just tell me to come back next year. And then what's funny, fast forward to now, we start learning about the history of NA, and I'm learning about all these people who was like, just got clean. Like if it wasn't for those people, we wouldn't have a basic text. we talked to a guy who interviewed the Mid-South or who chaired the Mid-South Regional Service Conference right here in Memphis. And what was he, 11 months clean? Yeah. 11 months clean. He was at the Third World Literature Conference with just like days clean. And 11 months later, he's chairing the Mid-South Regional Service Conference. Which, you know, that's where they were, you know, getting the mailing the approval drafts out. So, I mean, probably not as important as answering the phone, but I couldn't be on the phone. You know. So I'm pissed. You know, and even to this day, like when people want to get involved, like I'm an advocate. Like if they want to get involved, let them get involved. You know what? We're so worried that somebody's going to do something wrong. If they take all the fucking money, let them go. We're going to be fine. We are going to be fine. How many times has all the money been taken in NA? And it didn't just start happening. It's been happening since our creation, you know. So, anyways, I got involved in service. So I really started doing H&I. Another thing, they said you can't share. You only got 90 days, but you can go and attend. So I started doing H&I, going to a couple of different treatment centers. Yeah, and that first year was crazy, man. Like I didn't have the ability to do this stuff because eventually I got a job working in treatment, and I started at the very bottom. Like I worked noon to midnight, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and then I'd pick up some other shift either on a Monday to fill in to get my 80 hours a week or whatever, but I was always working on the weekends, so I never got to go to conventions or anything like that. I did get to go to Out of the Darkness when I had 26 days clean, which was fucking incredible. JW was the main speaker. I seen him get up in them damn overalls and no shoes on, and I was like, yep, people like me get clean too. Fuck yeah. And it was, and after that convention, man, I was convinced. I was still a little bit on the fence, but after I went to that convention and seen the love and, you know, like I've been all in ever since then. Now, I did run into a speed bump. Closest I ever come to using again. About 6 months in, I copped a little resentment. It's stupid, too. It's really because, like, I had just finally started chairing meetings in my home group. And all day at work, I was sitting there, I was reading my literature, and I was coming up with a topic, and I was dreaming about how he's going to carry me out of the meeting because this is the greatest meeting we ever had. I was going to be chanting my name. And I get there, and we go through the whole meeting, and this lady who I had never met before because she only shows up once a year to get her medallion, showed up to get her medallion. So they threw my topic out, and they're like, we're going to do a speaker meeting tonight and let her speak. I was like, I don't even know who the fuck she is. She damn sure ain't going to get me carried out of this meeting, right? But, so anyways, like I get up in the middle of the meeting, I'm like, well, fucking take it. You know, you want to take it, take it. I got up and took my ball and went home. And every day up until that point, I had been calling my sponsor. I've been going to meetings. You know, I did the 90-90, but like I didn't stop there. I kept going. Like I didn't want to miss. And that was the second meeting I had missed since I had started. And I got resentful and bitter over the smallest little shit. That is so petty and silly now looking back. I quit calling my sponsor. But eventually, he calls me. And of course, when he calls and is like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, nothing, man. Just been busy, you know, telling all that bullshit I always do. Just been living my life, man. It's been hard at work. And he's like, dude, cut the shit. You've called me every day for 6 months. And he's like, you're not being honest. And he just kept prying. And finally I was like, all right, well, these motherfuckers. And I went in on. And what was funny is like my behavior and attitude had changed ever since I walked out of that meeting. My fire had been, or I guess you would, what they call the what is it, the pink balloon, pink cloud had been popped. And I was in the step working process at that time. Like I think I was writing on step 3 or step 4.1, and like to me, I hadn't grasped the concept yet, if that makes sense. Like I was doing the steps, but I really didn't know what the fuck they meant. So he told me in that phone call, he said, look, he said, I'm just going to tell you this. He said, if you don't stop acting like you were acting when you were using, pretty soon you're going to have to use to justify how you're acting. You motherfucker, what? And, in that moment, that's when it all started to click for me. It's like, oh shit. This is not just, so you're saying it's not just about abstinence. Like if my attitude, my actions, and my behaviors don't change, even though the lie I tell myself is I'm not going to use, I don't even think about it. You know what I mean? You know how I know when I'm at work and somebody's fixing to relapse? When they come in and they go, I ain't even thought about using. I'm fine. No, you're fucked, buddy, and you don't even know it. You're fucked. There used to be this saying, what is it, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convince man that he doesn't exist. That's what the disease does, right? That's the greatest thing it convinces of, is that we're actually not addicts. I ain't like you. I ain't like you. We're not alike. There is hope for me to use successfully. When that idea creeps in, it's over with. When does relapse happen? When using becomes an option again. If it's on the table, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. That's what I do. I'm an addict. But anyways, he hits me with that bombshell, and it really started to click and make sense. And, realistically, I've been on fire ever since. Ever since that moment. Like I have fallen deeper and deeper in love with NA ever since. I've constantly been involved in service, different types of service since then. The cool thing about service, we all bitch about the time constraints, but I met so many of you in this room because of service. Some type of service or another, I've made so many connections through service. Not only that, getting to see like the fruits of the labor, getting to see people get clean because of things that you and other people have worked on, putting in that service when you didn't want to do it, when you'd rather be at home, but to see somebody actually get clean and walk into a meeting, like, man, so the first guy I took through the steps, I met him doing H&I at the jail. And he got out of jail and he brought his ass to a meeting. And that's what it's all about. And like if nobody ever gets clean again because of anything that I do, I'm okay with it. Because, what a gift. Like it warms my heart to know that. And you know what's funny? He's like, the first time, he said, I've come to H&I before. And he said, the last time I come to H&I, your dad was doing H&I. Yeah. And he said, I knew when I seen your dad, because I knew your dad back in the day, he said, I knew I could get clean. I just never was serious about it. And then so he gets out and I end up sponsoring him. He's the first person I take through all 12 steps. It's pretty cool. Still clean today. But yeah, got heavily involved. And, like I took this whole no relationship thing for a year seriously. And there's a reason why I did that. Like one of the biggest things that I dealt with during active, like that shame and guilt came from was, I had I had well, it wasn't a relationship. Well, quit beating around the bush. What happened is I got a nephew who is 3 weeks apart from me in age, and he had kids with this girl, but he ends up getting locked up and going to jail. And while he was in jail, me and that girl had a one night stand. She ended up getting pregnant, and that was like my brother too, you know, because we were so close in age. We didn't grow up like uncle and nephew. So but he ends up like raising this kid as his own, and it's still this thing. This kid I see this kid from time to time, and I'm just his uncle. And it's this weird thing that's happened. I think my nephew to this day struggles to get and stay clean, and I think it's because of that resentment, you know. And I've tried to do my part, but it still feels bad because he can't get his shit together. And I think a lot of it's got to do with because he feels like when he comes in NA in our town, like he has to deal with me. He has to be reminded of me and that situation all the time, you know. So because of that and working with my sponsor, it was important to me to like spend some time not getting in a relationship. So I did that. But then, you know, after going through the steps and get to that place where you're like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to quit looking. Then I was at this, I guess was at my brother-in-law's, third clean date. Kayla walks in. And I remember we went out to eat afterwards, and I was there with a guy who's dead now. But he was sitting there tapping me on the shoulder. He's like, look at that girl. She's staring at me. I was like, I don't know if she's staring at you or not. And he was convinced, but she was actually staring at me. But anyways, yeah, I meet Kayla, and you know, it's crazy. You know, I got to tell this story, honey. So the first night I have her over at my house, and I'm telling you, like, I have not been in relationships. I have not been in a relationship with anybody. But first night that she's over at my house, an ex from like 10 years ago Yeah. And I look and I'm like, what the fuck? How? And I'm going, get the fuck out of here. No. Not right now. Not right now. You know, so I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get through this one. You know. But, so anyways, she eventually comes busting up into the bedroom where Kayla, because I'm talking about out of her. I mean, she's in psychosis so bad that, you know, she's freaking out. She thinks people's coming out to kill her. Smelled like a wet dog, you know. And I'm trying to convince Kayla. I was like, trust me, this is not normal. Like, there's not been a woman in this house that wasn't a relative ever, you know. Well, I mean, I was renting a little one-bedroom apartment, you know, and Yeah. It was crazy. And I hadn't been living there long, but anyways, we made it through that, obviously. And she lived an hour and 20 minutes or so from me. She lived in Alabama. I lived in Tennessee. And so we spent the first couple of years of our relationship driving back and forth and like developing our relationship long distance. I don't know if either one of us would have survived had we just up and moved in with each other at that time. Like, we still had a lot of work to do on each other. Or not on each other too, but each of us had a lot of work to do individually. And then we had to learn how to have a healthy relationship because neither one of us had ever had one. And it's been a beautiful process, and I'm glad that we took our time. Eventually we did move in together. One thing I've always wanted to be, and one of the things I was upset about that story I told you about with my nephew, was I always wanted to be a dad, always. And I thought I had fucked my opportunity up at that. And, just so happens I meet Kayla, and she's got 2 kids that need a dad. Yeah. Right? And that's that was a bonus that I was not expecting. And it was, and she was smart too. Like, I didn't meet, how long was it, a year? It was a whole year we were together before I met her kids. Yeah. And she had her reasons for that, and it worked out perfect, And we're still developing our relationship to this day, but, they both know, like, regardless of what they call me, one of them does call me dad, but regardless of that, I'm going to be dad to them anyway. I don't care what you call me. So she's, Kayla is she's the loving and compassionate, caring mother, and I'm the discipline of the house. And so, what's funny is I thought they would hate me because of that, but I think they both respect me because of that, and it's really cool. And there's no fucking owner's manual on kids either. Like, we're trying to figure that shit out. Like, so. But it's been great. Like, we're getting ready for Christmas. It's exciting to have, like, your own place and be able to, like, provide and make sure your kids are going to have a good Christmas. And it's all gifts of NA, man. It's fucking awesome. So we got married a couple of years ago. Like I said, moved in together. They come up, and life's been great ever since. Like, I'm really busy now, work a couple of jobs. So Monday through Thursday, like, I'm kind of strapped on time, and, it's been tough. It's been tough because, like, on one hand, it can really provide for my family in a way that I never thought possible. But on the other hand, like, I'm a 5 to 7 meetings a week type of dude, and always have been. And so it's different. And, like, I can tell a difference because of my meeting attendance. I'm not as, I don't want to say connected, because I do other things that keeps me, I feel more connected than I ever have, but I do feel like I'm missing something by those additional meetings that I was hitting, We're going through how much time do I got? No, we're about done? Okay. All right. I'll wrap it up. We've been going through a little transition in my town. Forever we had one group. I told you that group started with, it met 4 times a week. Eventually, got involved in service, and we got that up to 7 meetings a week. So you can do your 90 and 90 right there in Homewall. Eventually we got to a place to where it felt like we needed another meeting. For any of you who have been involved in a home group splitting, even with the best of intentions, there's consequences with that. And so, I believe in the long run it's going to be the right thing. It's like that Coke and Pepsi option that we have in town now. We are completely different. I say we because I was involved in starting another home group. But we are completely different than the other group, and not to be spiteful, but we're intentionally like that so that those people who that other group, which is great and which most people will love, there is that small percentage of people who prefer something different, and they'll be able to get it there. Different format. It's candlelight. It's late night. It's a different style. So it will attract some people who might not have found NA if it not for that format. And so in the long run, it'll be better. But there's some feelings involved there, right? Like, because a couple of strong members of that other group left to help start this one because nobody else was jumping up and raising their hand and going, I'll do it. So the strong ones do, and now the other group kind of feels some type of way because some of their strong members are gone and nobody's wanting to fill up and take that spot. So, but anyways, to wrap it up, there was a bunch of other things I want to talk about, but one thing I want to talk about for sure is my home group and that other home group and some other home groups here in Hohenwald or around the Hohenwald area, Lawrenceburg, Lewisburg, Pulaski, are just voted to create a new area, which used to be the Southern Middle Tennessee area of Narcotics Anonymous. We do plan on joining the volunteer region if they'll have us. And yeah, and it's time. It's been time for a while, and we're fucking excited, man. We really are. And it's so cool. Like, I believe the glue that is going to bring those two groups in town back together is that we're all working together to create this new area. And I have found that, one of the guys I argue with the most in my town, I take a bullet for that dude. You know why? Because we used to, like, in the trenches, go do H&I at the prison and go do different things. Like, he was with me the day that they told me I couldn't be on the phone line, So you build these strong connections with people, and I think when you create something new and you all share in that creative action of the Spirit, we get to tap in about what we learned at the history workshop, yesterday. We get to be like, when we get creative together, we get to like live in that spirit that the people who gave us this program in the beginning, got to experience. So, but anyways, thank you so much for letting me share. That's all I got. Love y'all.